Some women mistake the tightening of chains for the embrace of love. They confuse the ache in their chest with devotion, and the silence that follows his absence with longing. But beneath that hollow ache is not love. It is an attachment wound, an old fracture from long before he appeared. Carl Jung understood this wound as the shadowed hunger of the psyche, the child reaching for the mother who never truly met her gaze. What you feel now is not romance, but the echo of abandonment dressed in the costume of desire. Imagine this. You're lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, waiting for a message that doesn't come. The silence is heavy, pressing into your ribs. Your breath feels shallow. Each second that stretches out, you tell yourself it must mean something, that he is busy, that he is testing you, that he must still care. But beneath every excuse, your body knows the truth. What hurts isn't the man, it's the reminder of the wound. The wound speaks in shadows. It whispers that you are only worthy when chosen. It makes you believe the coldness of neglect is proof of passion. It chains your worth to the whims of someone else's attention. The Femme Fatale archetype hides here, twisted in reverse. She who was meant to wield allure now finds herself ensnared, her seduction turned inward as a weapon against herself. She burns to be seen, yet collapses the moment his gaze drifts away. But step closer into the darkness and you notice something. This hunger, this unbearable ache has a pattern. It does not belong to this single man nor to the one before him. It carries the fingerprints of childhood, the absent father, the distracted mother, the teacher who dismissed you, the friend who abandoned you. The wound has been waiting silently for a stage to reenact its tragedy. And now the stage is lit, the curtains parted, and you are pulled into the same play once again. In the mythic mirror, the Siren rises. She is radiant, magnetic, every glance a spell. But her song is not always sung to seduce another. Sometimes it is the haunting cry of the wound itself, drawing her back into waters where she nearly drowns. Desire disguises itself as devotion. The man becomes a phantom, his absence the hook that keeps you swimming in circles. The siren's song is no longer for conquest but for survival. And yet, beneath the drowning, there is recognition. The ache is not endless. The very fact that you can feel its shape means you can confront it. Jung called this confrontation shadow work, the turning inward toward what was once unbearable. The attachment wound is not a curse but an invitation. It demands that you stop searching in his eyes for proof of your worth and begin searching in the mirror. It asks you to see that the hollow ache is not punishment but a doorway. The Shadow Queen waits at this threshold. She does not cry out for him to return. She does not beg the wound to disappear. She sits upon her throne of silence, hands steady, gaze unflinching. She knows that sovereignty is born not in the absence of pain but in the mastery of it. She does not confuse the tightening of chains for intimacy. She sees the chain as it is and begins to unclasp it. The motif sharpens now. A fractured mirror lies before you. Each shard reflects a distorted version of love, obsession, longing, desperation. But when you dare to gather them, when you bleed a little holding their edges, the pieces begin to align. The reflection changes. The chains loosen. The weight of his silence is no longer unbearable. It is simply silence. And in that silence, you begin to hear something else. The sound of your own pulse, steady and sovereign. The High Priestess enters as a whisper, veiled in mystery. She teaches that love is not meant to bind but to expand. That the ache you feel is not proof of his power but proof of your capacity for depth. She asks you to turn the same devotion you once poured into him inward, into ritual, into self-discovery, into the sacred art of becoming whole. The wound is not your prison. It is your initiation. But the story does not end here, because just as the chains begin to fall, the psyche resists. The wound is old, familiar, seductive in its own way. It pulls you back toward the fractured mirror, toward the fantasy that maybe this time he will choose you. Maybe this time the ache will vanish if you just hold tighter. The siren's song calls once more, beckoning you into waters that feel almost like home. And so the question is no longer whether he loves you. The question is whether you will choose to step out of the water, dripping, breathless, but unchained. Whether you will dare to see the wound for what it is, a ghost, not a god. The chains are loosening, but the shadow still lingers in the corner of the room, waiting for your next move. The click of unseen heels echoes through the silence. The mirror quivers, not yet whole. The throne of the Shadow Queen stands empty, waiting for you to claim it. The room is dim, ch. Chiaroscuro light bending across the walls like the memory of fire. The fractured mirror still glimmers, shards scattered, each piece reflecting a different face of the same hunger. You lean toward it, tempted to press them back together quickly, to restore an image that feels complete. But the mirror refuses haste. Each fragment must be held, studied, understood. This is the slow ritual of shadow work, painful, deliberate, unavoidable. The ache in your chest returns, but now it feels older, deeper, as though it does not belong to the man at all. It belongs to the child who reached for affection and met only distance. The child who was told she was too much, too needy, too sensitive. That voice is still alive, whispering through your bloodstream, convincing you that love means enduring absence. This is not a story about him. It is a story about you and the unhealed wound you carry like a secret relic. The Shadow Queen rises again, her presence both unsettling and magnetic. She sits in silence, yet her silence is not the same as his. His silence was a void, a punishment. Hers is a weapon, deliberate and sovereign. She reminds you that stillness can be a throne when chosen, not imposed. Each moment you do not chase is a reclaiming. Each breath taken without waiting for his return is a crown placed upon your own head. But sovereignty does not arrive without resistance. The psyche clings to its oldest patterns because even pain can feel safer than freedom. You may find yourself reaching for your phone, your fingers trembling, composing messages you will delete, then rewrite, then delete again. Every unsent word feels like a scream pressed down into your chest. This is the trap of the wound. It makes you believe silence is unbearable, when in truth it is the silence that heals. And yet the siren lingers. She drapes herself in crimson silk, her song trembling in the air. She whispers that just one more call, one more plea, one more night of surrender might be enough to soothe the ache. But her allure is deceptive. Her song is an echo chamber of longing. If you follow it, you circle back into the waters of abandonment. If you resist, you begin to hear something beneath her voice. A softer rhythm, your own steady breath. The High Priestess appears in these moments of restraint. She does not demand that you destroy the siren or silence her forever. Instead, she teaches you to listen differently, to hear the cry beneath the cry. The siren is not your enemy. She is the child self calling out, the unhealed fragment of you begging for acknowledgement. When you turn toward her, not with surrender but with compassion, the waters grow calmer. The ache shifts from unbearable to recognizable. Jung would say this is individuation, the integration of shadow into the whole self. The wound, once haunting, becomes a teacher. It shows you where you have abandoned yourself. It points toward the places within you that ache not for him but for your own attention. When the siren's cry no longer pulls you under but leads you inward, you step closer to sovereignty. The fractured mirror begins to realign, not to reflect him but to reflect you. The Femme Fatale returns, but she is no longer inverted. Her gaze sharpens, not desperate but deliberate. She no longer burns herself for the sake of being chosen. She channels her fire into allure that is sovereign, not enslaved. Desire becomes a choice, not a wound. Her power is no longer the weapon of the desperate but the dance of the sovereign, magnetic because she is whole, not because she is lacking. Still, the temptation lingers. The ghost of him hovers in the periphery, a distant laugh you think you hear in a crowd, the imagined weight of his gaze pressing against your skin in dreams. These hauntings test your resolve. The fractured mirror flickers, the throne of the Shadow Queen shudders. Sovereignty is not claimed once but over and over. In each small moment you choose not to bend to the wound. The image evolves now. The mirror's shards have been arranged into a mosaic. It does not look like the mirror you once knew. It is not smooth nor seamless, but it is more beautiful than before. Each crack, each line of gold holding the pieces together tells the story of resilience. This is the beginning of becoming unshakable, not by erasing the wound but by weaving it into your crown. But the story is not complete, because sovereignty brings its own shadow, the fear of isolation. As you step into your throne, silence expands around you, vast and echoing. The wound tempts you again, whispering that without his presence you are nothing, that independence is loneliness. The chill of the room deepens. The air thickens. The test of power has only just begun. The distant click of heels echoes again, louder now, closer, as if someone unseen is circling the throne. The mosaic mirror trembles. The siren's song fades into silence. Something is approaching, veiled and forbidden. The next stage of the shadow is about to reveal itself. The air grows heavier, as though the walls themselves lean closer, listening. The silence is no longer empty but charged, pulsing with something unseen. In the dim light, the fractured mosaic mirror flickers, and for a moment you glimpse another figure in its reflection. Not the man, not the child self, but something darker. She stands at the edge of vision, draped in shadow, her crown forged from thorns and obsidian. This is the Shadow Queen in her full form, no longer patient but demanding. She asks not for comfort but for reckoning. The reckoning begins with truth. The truth that what you have called love has often been hunger. That the ache which drags you back to him is not a sign of connection but of unfinished business within yourself. The wound thrives on repetition, replaying the same patterns through different faces, different men, different nights of silence. You thought he was special, that the ache belonged only to him. But the Shadow Queen lifts her veil, revealing the lineage of ghosts that came before him, each one pulling the same strings. This realization cuts deep. The mirror shows not a romance but a cycle, and cycles are cages. To see it clearly is both devastating and liberating. Devastating because it strips away the illusion of love you clung to. Liberating because once the cage is named, the key begins to form. Jung taught that the shadow, once made conscious, loses its grip. Awareness is the first strike of the sword against the chain. But awareness alone is not enough. The wound resists, fighting to keep its place as master. It whispers in softer tones now, not desperation but seduction. It tells you that sovereignty is too cold, that thrones are lonely, that power without love is hollow. And so you teeter, caught between the ache of old hunger and the chill of new strength. The Femme Fatale arches her brow, testing whether you will retreat into longing or step fully into fire. The fire is where transformation lives. Fire does not soothe. It consumes, it purifies, it remakes. To sit upon the throne of the Shadow Queen is to allow the fire to pass through you without running. Every time you resist the urge to reach for him, every time you breathe into silence rather than filling it with pleas, the fire burns away another chain. The ache lessens, not because he returns, but because you no longer need him to. Yet sovereignty is not about severing desire. The siren still lingers, her presence undeniable, but her song changes. No longer a drowning melody, it becomes a choice. Desire transforms from compulsion into art. The siren's allure sharpens into clarity, magnetism born from abundance rather than lack. To embody her now is not to beg for devotion, but to awaken it in others without surrendering your own. The High Priestess watches from the shadows, silent and veiled, but her lesson grows louder. She whispers that healing is not the absence of longing but the redirection of it. That the same intensity you once poured into him can be woven into your own rituals, your own body, your own future. The ache becomes a compass, pointing not to the man but to the parts of yourself you abandoned for him. When you follow it inward, you discover that the emptiness was never emptiness. It was space waiting to be filled by your own essence. The imagery shifts again. The throne, once cold and bare, begins to glow faintly. The fractured mosaic mirror now reflects more than your face. It shows a crown, heavy yet radiant, forming above your head. Each shard holds an old story, rejection, abandonment, silence. But together they become jewels. What once shattered you now adorns you. What once haunted you now bends in service to your sovereignty. But the transformation is not yet complete, for every crown carries a shadow of its own, responsibility. To claim power is to lose excuses. No longer can you say you are at the mercy of his silence. No longer can you hide behind the ache. The throne demands accountability. To sit upon it is to declare, even to yourself, that you will never again confuse chains for love. Still, the wound makes one final plea. In the distance, you hear the faint echo of footsteps, his footsteps, or perhaps only memory's trick. The room chills, the mirror flickers. The ghost of him leans against the wall of your mind, smirking, waiting to see if you will falter. This is the test. Will you give the crown back to the ghost, or will you wear it despite his shadow? The heels click once more, closer now, deliberate, sovereign. A veil of crimson silk sweeps across the floor. The unseen presence circles behind you, breathing against your neck. The Shadow Queen does not simply watch. You realize she is you, and she has come to claim her place. The breath against your neck lingers, cool and unsettling, yet not entirely hostile. It is the reminder that power is never handed, it is taken. The Shadow Queen is not a savior, nor a comforting figure. She is the part of you that refuses to bow again, the part that demands you face the wound without disguise. She presses her crown into your hands, not gently but insistently, as if to say, wear this or remain chained. There is no middle path. The weight of the crown is heavier than you imagined. It presses into your skull, not gilded gold but molten iron. Each thorn digs slightly into your skin, reminding you that power carries pain. This is the paradox Jung understood. Individuation requires sacrifice. To step into sovereignty, you must allow the old self to die, the one who begged, who chased, who mistook absence for devotion. Every thorn is a funeral for a version of you that no longer belongs. And yet, as the crown settles, something shifts. The ache in your chest does not vanish, but it transforms. It becomes fuel, not emptiness. Where once you felt hollow, now you feel fire curling beneath your ribs. This fire is not rage alone. It is clarity, a refusal to mistake hunger for love again. The chains that once dug into your skin begin to fall away, each clattering to the floor with a metallic echo. The sound is harsh, but it is also liberation. The Siren watches with narrowed eyes, her crimson silk trailing behind her as she circles. Her allure is undeniable, but even she feels the shift. Her song falters, then reshapes. What once lured you back into drowning now becomes an anthem of choice. She is no longer the embodiment of compulsion, but of magnetism. When she sings now, it is not for him. It is for herself, to feel her own power reverberate through the air. You begin to understand that seduction need not be surrender. It can be sovereignty wrapped in velvet tones. Still, temptation is never fully gone. His ghost lingers, woven into memory, testing the edges of your resolve. Sometimes it is not his silence, but his imagined return that haunts you. You picture him suddenly reaching out, finally choosing you, finally offering what you once begged for. That fantasy claws at the throne, begging for entry. But the Shadow Queen does not yield to fantasy. She knows that real power cannot be granted by another. The gift must come from within. The High Priestess steps forward now, veiled in silver shadow, holding a chalice filled with still water. She teaches that true healing is not only fire but also calm. To wear the crown without being consumed by its thorns, you must drink deeply from stillness. She reminds you that sovereignty is not only strength but also serenity. You are not merely the one who refuses chains. You are the one who no longer needs to prove she is free. Her chalice reflects your face, no longer fractured but whole. The imagery deepens. The mosaic mirror glows softly, the shards sealed with gold, each line a testament to wounds transformed. When you gaze into it now, you no longer see desperation. You see a woman forged in contradiction, both siren and queen, both fire and stillness. The mirror, once broken, has become an artifact of power, a reminder that beauty is not in perfection but in resilience. The ache that once defined you has become the crown upon your head, the jewel in your hand, the fire in your chest. But shadows evolve. As the room glows, another tension rises. Sovereignty isolates as much as it empowers. The air thickens, the silence expands. A question hums beneath your ribs, not spoken but felt. What if no one can meet me here? What if stepping into this throne means stepping into eternal solitude? The wound seizes this fear, twisting it like a blade, whispering that chains may be safer than a crown. The test is no longer his absence but your own tolerance for aloneness. You walk across the chamber, heels clicking against the cold stone floor. Each step echoes like a declaration. The throne towers, weighting both promise and burden. You hesitate at its base, fingers brushing the carved armrest. The weight of decision presses heavier than the crown itself. If you sit, you accept exile from the games of dependency forever. If you turn away, the chains return, familiar and suffocating. The air sharpens, the unseen presence circles again, closer, relentless. The veil of crimson silk flares as though caught in wind. The crown tightens against your temples, thorns biting deeper. The mosaic mirror flickers, showing not one but two futures, shimmering side by side, one where you bend once more and one where you never bow again. The chamber holds its breath. The choice must be made. The chamber trembles as though aware of your hesitation. The two futures shimmer side by side in the mosaic mirror, each more vivid than the other. In one, you see yourself bending again, chained to the same cycle, your crown discarded, your worth bound once more to his silence. In the other, you see yourself seated on the throne, sovereign, untouchable, radiating a power that no absence can diminish. The mirror does not guide you, it confronts you. Choice is no longer abstract. It is immediate. You lift your gaze and see the shadow queen waiting, her figure still cloaked in darkness, but her crown gleams with a feral brilliance. She does not coax or comfort. She does not promise ease. Her presence is demand, pure and unyielding. To step into her place is to kill a version of yourself forever. The woman who begged will not survive this choice. And that death, though liberating, feels terrifying. The ache in your chest flares once more, sharp and relentless, as if the wound knows it is about to be unmasked. It screams through memory, his hand pulling away, his voice fading into silence, the chill of an empty room. You almost reach for the ghost again, almost plead for one more illusion of closeness. But then the Femme Fatale enters, her presence electric. She grips your chin, forcing your eyes upward. Her message is clear. Begging is not beauty. Allure does not crawl. Power does not plead. You inhale sharply, the air slicing through your lungs. The Femme Fatale smirks, her eyes shimmering like obsidian glass. She reminds you that what makes a woman magnetic is not her desperation but her detachment. That fire becomes irresistible only when it burns for its own sake. To embody her fully is to wield desire as choice, never as compulsion. And in this moment, her fire courses through you, daring you to release the illusion of love that bound you. Still, the siren hovers near, her voice softer now, almost mournful. She does not beg you to drown again, but she whispers of the sweetness of longing, of how intoxicating it felt to be consumed. There is a dangerous comfort in the familiar ache. To silence her entirely would be a mistake. But the High Priestess reminds you, Longing can be sacred if you learn to redirect it. Desire does not need to vanish. It needs to evolve. It can become the force that pulls you deeper into your own mystery, your own becoming. The imagery sharpens. The throne looms before you, draped in shadow and gold. The crown on your head hums, each thorn biting but also anchoring. The mosaic mirror glows with fractured light, no longer reflecting him but you. Yet the room is not silent, it hums with tension. Every archetype watches, waiting. The queen, the siren, the priestess, the femme fatale. They are not separate beings but parts of you, each holding a key to your sovereignty. To step into the throne is to unite them. The air thickens, pressing against your skin. You feel the ghost's presence at your back, silent, expectant. It is the last test. If you turn, you surrender. If you walk forward, you are reborn. Your heels click on the stone, each sound louder than the last, reverberating like war drums. The chamber tilts, the light quivers, the silence cracks. You reach the throne and lay your hand upon its armrest. The cold stone burns against your palm, a paradox of sensation. You lower yourself into the seat. The weight of the crown presses heavier, the thorns digging deeper, but instead of pain, you feel steadiness. The ache in your chest dissolves into something vast, an expanse, a horizon, a silence that does not punish but expands. The ghost retreats, his presence scattering like smoke. The mirror no longer flickers between futures. It shows only one, you enthroned, sovereign, whole. The chamber bows to your presence. The siren's song shifts into harmony, no longer desperate but enchanting, resonant with choice. The femme fatale's fire sharpens your gaze, deliberate and unshakable. The high priestess veils you in mystery, her chalice overflowing with calm. The shadow queen rises within, not as separate but as self. You are no longer haunted by the wound, you are crowned by it. And yet, even now, sovereignty is not the end of tension. For power brings its own shadows and freedom demands its own sacrifices. The ache does not vanish, it transforms. It becomes a rhythm beneath your ribs, a reminder that desire, once enslaving, is now yours to command. But the story is not finished. Beyond the chamber lies another trial. Power is claimed, yes, but can it be carried into the world of men, into the dance of relationships without faltering? The throne is secure, but the test of sovereignty has only just begun. The chamber doors begin to creak open, a rush of wind sweeping through, carrying whispers from beyond. The world waits for the woman who no longer bows. The chamber doors groan open, their weight echoing through stone corridors that stretch into shadow. A rush of air surges in, cool and sharp, carrying with it the scent of the world outside. For the first time, you feel the vastness beyond these walls. The throne has given you sovereignty, but sovereignty cannot remain hidden. It must be carried into the realm where his ghost still lingers, where whispers of desire and rejection weave themselves through every human bond. This is the true test, not to sit enthroned in isolation, but to walk among others without losing your crown. You step forward, the heels of your shoes striking against the stone with deliberate rhythm. Each click reverberates like a declaration. The world beyond the chamber is not empty. It teems with faces, voices, gestures, some familiar, some new. Each one reflects fragments of the same old story, eager to pull you back into the cycle of longing. But you have changed. The ache in your chest, once a hollow, now burns with clarity. You no longer search their eyes for proof. You carry proof within. The femme fatale moves through you, her energy palpable. Where once your gaze trembled, now it steadies. You do not beg to be seen. You allow yourself to be witnessed. Every glance you offer is deliberate, every silence intentional. Men feel the shift instantly, though they cannot name it. They sense the absence of hunger and it unsettles them. For hunger made you predictable, malleable, easy to control. Now your allure is sovereign, an enigma they cannot possess. But with power comes provocation. Some will try harder, leaning in with charm, weaving promises designed to rekindle the wound. Their words will feel familiar, dangerously sweet, and in their voices you will hear the siren's song, once your undoing, now your test. Will you drown again in the melody of false promises, or will you recognize the echo for what it is? A ghost repeating its line. The siren, now under your command, reminds you, seduction is not surrender. You can listen without drowning. You can feel desire without chains. The High Priestess emerges quietly in these encounters. She speaks not in words but in intuition, the chill at the back of your neck, the tightening of your gut. She teaches you to trust these signals, to sense when attention is poison disguised as devotion. Her wisdom saves you from slipping into old traps. Every time you honor her guidance, the ache transforms further into sovereignty. Each moment of restraint becomes ritual. Each boundary becomes sacred. And still the Shadow Queen remains present. She is not soft, she does not soothe. Her reminder is stark. Sovereignty means consequence. There will be men who cannot meet your gaze. There will be relationships that wither under the weight of your wholeness. To embody her is to accept that not all connections survive your becoming. But she also reminds you, what falls away was never worthy of you. Chains cannot hold a woman who has claimed her throne. The imagery sharpens. You walk through a city at dusk, crimson silk trailing in your wake, lights flickering against fractured glass windows. Each reflection shows you a different archetype. The siren's allure in one, the femme fatale's fire in another, the high priestess's stillness in the next. And in every pane of glass, the Shadow Queen's crown gleams above you. The world mirrors your inner integration. No longer fragments, but a seamless dance of archetypes. You are not haunted, you are whole. And yet shadows test you still. There will be nights when silence presses heavy again, when you feel the ghost return, whispering that perhaps nothing has changed, that perhaps sovereignty is only an illusion. These nights are trials, crucibles where the ache claws at your ribs, but unlike before, you do not break. You sit with the ache, breathing through its rhythm, letting the fire burn without consuming you. Each trial reinforces the truth. Love is not chains, and desire is not proof of worth. The city fades, the wind sharpens, and you find yourself standing before another threshold. This one is different. The doors are not stone but shadow, tall and veiled. Beyond them lies the deepest integration, the place where you no longer simply resist the wound but transform it entirely. The crown on your head hums, the mosaic mirror shimmers faintly in your mind's eye. You feel every archetype gathered around you, waiting for the next step. The doors shudder, their veil lifting slightly. A flicker of light seeps through, golden yet untouchable. The ache in your chest pulses once more, not as pain but as a summons. The wound is not gone, it has become a guide. And as you reach for the doors, the sound returns. The deliberate click of unseen heels, closer than ever, circling behind you. The Shadow Queen breathes at your ear, waiting to see if you will open the final gate. The shadow doors tower before you, their surface rippling like liquid darkness. They are not barriers in the usual sense. They are thresholds, veils between what you once believed love to be and what it truly is. The ache in your chest thrums like a heartbeat against the veil, urging you forward, testing whether you are ready to face the deepest truth. Power does not come from fleeing the wound, but from walking straight into it. You press your palms against the doors. They are cold, almost alive, and the moment you push, the chamber behind you dissolves into silence. You step through, and suddenly you are standing in a vast hall of mirrors, endless reflections stretching out into infinity. Each mirror shows a different scene, the child abandoned, the lover ignored, the woman waiting in silence. Every wound you have carried is displayed, shimmering like fractured constellations. This is not punishment, it is revelation. The femme fatale appears first, her reflection multiplied 1,000 times. In some, she is on her knees begging to be chosen. In others, she is aflame, consuming herself for someone else's gaze. You feel the sting of recognition, but you do not turn away. In the center mirror, she lifts her head and smirks, eyes burning with fire that is no longer desperation but defiance. Her lesson is clear. Allure without sovereignty is self-destruction, but allure chosen is freedom. The Siren rises next, her crimson silk rippling through the hall. Her voice swells, haunting, irresistible, echoing through every mirror. You see yourself drowning in her waters again and again, seduced by the sweetness of longing. The ache stirs, threatening to pull you back into her arms, but as you watch, her song shifts. It softens, deepens, becomes a hymn of reclamation rather than drowning. Her allure no longer drags you beneath. It lifts you, buoyant, sovereign, radiant. Desire is no longer your prison. It is your art. The High Priestess emerges from the shadows, veiled in silver light. She does not multiply like the others. She stands alone, calm, steady, a fixed point in the labyrinth of mirrors. She raises her chalice, still water shimmering within, and you drink. The silence that follows is not absence but fullness. In her stillness, you realize that love is not meant to bind but to expand. The ache in your chest becomes spacious, no longer a hollow, but a vessel of your own depth. And then the Shadow Queen steps forward, towering in her obsidian crown. The mirrors quake as her presence fills the hall. She does not ask, she commands. You see every image of yourself begging, waiting, breaking, and she crushes them beneath her heel. She points to the throne reflected in the central mirror, vast and unshakable. Her gaze pierces you, daring you to claim it not as fantasy but as truth. To embody her is to declare, I am no longer at the mercy of absence. I am the presence itself. The hall of mirrors begins to shift. The fragments of reflection pull together, converging into one grand mosaic. It shows not a woman shattered, but a woman whole, crowned, veiled, alluring, sovereign. Every archetype fused, every shadow integrated. The ache in your chest pulses one last time, not as torment but as transformation. You realize it was never a wound alone. It was a doorway into depth, into power, into wholeness. But the integration comes with cost. To leave this hall is to accept exile from the illusions that once comforted you. You will never again be able to confuse chains for love. You will never again be able to lose yourself in the hunger of the wound. That world is closed forever. What awaits is not the sweetness of fantasy, but the sharp clarity of truth. Freedom is not soft. It is sharp, feral, unshakable. The mirrors blaze with light, too bright to hold. The floor trembles, the ceiling cracks, and the hall collapses into shadow. You are left standing alone, but you are no longer fractured. The crown on your head steadies, no longer pressing thorns, but resting as if it was always meant to be there. The silence hums within you, vast, endless, sovereign. And then the sound returns, the heels, clicking slow, deliberate, unyielding. They echo from behind, but when you turn, there is no figure. Only your own reflection in the last remaining shard of mirror gazing back at you. The Shadow Queen has not left you. She has become you. The hall dissolves, the darkness folding inward. Ahead, another veil of light appears, brighter, softer, summoning you into the final stage of transformation. You know instinctively, what waits beyond is not the ache, not the wound, not the test. It is the rebirth. The veil of light shimmers before you, softer than silk yet radiant as fire. It sways gently, as if waiting for your decision. The ache in your chest pulses once more, but this time it feels different. No longer the hollow scream of abandonment, but the steady rhythm of something alive, something whole. You step forward, and the veil parts without resistance. On the other side, there is no chamber, no hall of mirrors, no throne of stone. You find yourself standing in an open expanse, sky stretching endlessly, horizon painted with hues of gold and crimson. The air is light, the silence vast, but it no longer carries weight. It breathes with you, expansive and free. This is not exile, this is liberation. You walk barefoot across the ground, soft earth meeting your steps. Each movement feels deliberate, rooted, unshakable. The femme fatale walks with you, no longer desperate but radiant, her allure sharpened into sovereignty. The siren glides beside you, her song no longer a drowning pull but a melody of choice, seductive yet free. The High Priestess lingers in the distance, veiled, her chalice glowing faintly, reminding you of the depth that always waits within. And above all, the Shadow Queen stands tall, her crown gleaming, not a burden now but an extension of your very being. Together they are not separate figures but facets of you, fused into wholeness. The archetypes have become your language, the voices of your shadow transmuted into power. You are no longer fractured. You are no longer haunted. What once chained you now fuels you. The ache has become a crown, the silence a throne, the wound a compass. The air thickens slightly and the ghost of him appears one last time, distant, silent, watching. But now his presence does not shake you. He is no longer a god, no longer a captor. He is only a ghost, faded, powerless, irrelevant. You meet his gaze not with longing but with stillness. He cannot chain you because you no longer bend. The throne is within you. The crown is yours. And with that recognition, his image dissolves into smoke, scattered by the wind. The motif returns, transformed. Once you stared into a fractured mirror, desperate to piece yourself together. Now the sky itself reflects you, vast and whole, a living mirror with no cracks. Each breath confirms your sovereignty. Each step reminds you that your worth has never lived in someone else's hands. It was always waiting here, in the silence, in the shadow, in the fire. The femme fatale leans close, whispering that allure is now your art, not your survival. The siren hums softly, her song an anthem of magnetism under your command. The High Priestess offers the chalice once more, but this time it is filled with light, shimmering and eternal. And the Shadow Queen crowns you not with iron thorns, but with gold lined in flame. You are no longer haunted by them, you are them, integrated, whole. The ache fades into peace. The silence expands into freedom. The chain has become dust beneath your feet. You stand sovereign, unshakable, luminous in your own presence. Jung's shadow has not destroyed you, it has been integrated, turned from prison into power, from hunger into sovereignty. The horizon glows brighter and you realize the final truth. You were never trapped by love. You were trapped by the wound. And now that wound has been transformed into your crown. No man's silence can erase it. No absence can diminish it. No ghost can haunt it. You have reclaimed every shard, every fragment, every ache. You are whole. The wind stirs, carrying your presence outward into the world that once bound you. And with every breath, you know that you are untouchable, unchained, reborn. The ultimate transformation is complete. Inner power, self-sovereignty, shadow integration. And as the light envelops you, the final line resounds, clear and unshakable. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.